Hey everyone, it is Wednesday, and by now you know what that means. We bring back Anna Kelly from our expert series. Hi, Anna.
Hi.
How are
Good
you?
morning. I'm amazing. Thank you so much.
The fact that you give us this half hour or so of your time when you have a very hectic week, kids back in school, remodeling, selling a home, buying a home. I don't know how you do it, but I am so happy you're here.
Thank you. This gives me joy. As much as we talked about, things that give us joy, this gives me joy. We always have such a great conversation. It's educational for both of us and our listeners.
Yeah.
So this is a highlight of my week. It really is.
Wow. You have no idea how much I just started glowing when you said this brings you joy,
Oh,
because I know how important that is to you.
it is. Thanks,
All
Michael.
right, so I got a question. I was actually going to create my own live stream on this later, but I think this is a question both you and I should talk about. So it came from a subscriber, and he says, "I would love a video right now during these uncertain times on if starting out this adventure of real estate investing during this crazy virus is a good or bad idea." When you hear a question like that, I know lots of people are out there going, "Is now the right time?" How do we break that down? Because I think we both say it's always a good time, but how do we
Yeah.
do that? Because people are nervous.
Yeah, I think, Michael, like anything, and your listeners are probably getting tired of us saying this, but I'm glad that we give context around it,
Mhm.
is it really depends. There's no one right answer that fits everybody and where you are personally in your life, in your financial stability, how much money and risk tolerance, you have to invest today. So
Mhm.
if you have no experience at all in real estate and you're saying, is this a good time to get in, I would say every time in history has opportunities for real estate investors to make money.
Mhm.
But you have some things like COVID that, yes, make real estate currently today, if you're buying rental property, a little more risky from a legislative perspective,
For
and a
sure.
little more risky that in the short term you may struggle collecting rents if
Mhm.
this thing goes longer. So
Mhm.
there, yes, that's new risk to us that we have to realize. But we preach play the long game, Michael. We're
Mhm.
not saying, do you start flipping? If you ask me, should I start flipping property? I would say it's the riskiest thing you can possibly do today if you've
Mhm.
never done it before.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
if you've never
There's too
done it,
much of a
yeah.
learning curve and too many factors that make this time
Mhm.
unreliable on what can you make on the back end if and when you can sell it.
Yep.
But as real estate investors who buy cash flowing real estate, we're in this thing for the long game. So we plan to hold real estate at least 5 to 20 years
Oh
when we're
yeah.
buying a rental property. So I'm still looking at property,
Mhm.
and even with my coaching students, I'm still encouraging them, let's look, don't just sit on the sidelines because
Mhm.
of the recession and because of what's happening with COVID. There will be downturn, there will be price adjustments, things will come down in price, and interest rates are going to stay fairly low in the foreseeable
For
future.
sure.
So you will have an opportunity almost like no other, at
Mhm.
least since the last major downturn, to get in the game at a good price point, I think
Mhm.
in a few months.
Yeah.
But you just have to be careful and align yourself with people that you can use their experience
Mhm.
since you don't have any yet. You've
Mhm.
got to tread carefully. Don't try to go it alone buying your first property without understanding a lot of the things that you don't understand. So
Mhm.
you're going to have to, spend this time to really invest in your knowledge and learn to look at deals and find someone that can help you make sure that you're investing cautiously and conservatively.
Yeah, we kind of see it the same way. When I read questions like that, and I get flavors of that 10 times a week, right?
Sure.
And basically what I tell people is actually today is probably the best time to learn your market. Because
Yes.
again, we've been doing this 20 years or so, and most of the time in most markets, real estate's kind of boring, right? It's up, down, flat across the
Sure.
country. What
Sure.
we are experiencing now in places like Memphis, Tennessee, and Huntsville, Alabama, and all these other places that used to be like this is at least I have never experienced in my 20 years, right? We are seeing a tilt on the U.S. map of people exiting certain regions and going
Yeah.
to others. If you ever wanted to learn a market and not be bored out of your skull, this is the time, right? Because it's going to change. It's changing right in front of you every
Yes.
time. So what I told this individual in the comment is get off your lazy ass, stop making excuses, and start looking at your market. Look every day. I'm not saying write offers, right? You're probably not ready for that, but I still look every day, and I've been doing it 20 years. So
For sure.
to try to create, some people are trying to give themselves an out, right? Somebody just tell me it's too risky, I'm gonna sit on the sidelines because it's
Yeah.
scary. No, this is the time to look, learn. Oh, by the
Yes.
way, network. Something I learned after 5 years of beating my head against the wall is I can't do it alone, right? I thought the answer lived in Excel, right? I'm a finance geek, accounting geek, MBA geek. I thought if I built the Uber Excel spreadsheet, I'd win. Wrong. My spreadsheet now is so brain dead simple, right? It just takes, basically, it generates cash on cash, and I'm done, right? So
Yeah.
people, you need to be doing the work today. I mean, from today through the end of the year, you need to be looking at your market every day. You need to pick the asset type you want to focus on. Stop being a butterfly flitting around to all different things. Become the expert on 3-bedroom, 2 baths in this zip code, this size, and stop looking for an excuse. Go do the work. People don't want to do the work.
Right, 100%. So you touched on market. So you've got to find a market and get to know a market really well before you write an offer. So, educating yourself on the market. We talked about, partners and knowledge. So you can't do it all alone and make a really good investment decision until you build that knowledge and you align with partners who have that knowledge that can help you in some capacity. And then the last thing is money. You've got to be thinking about, when I do find a good deal, I want to get in the game, maybe I'm a little nervous, but when I find that deal that, gives me the comfort that over the long term, this thing is going to work out, I need to be prepared to write an offer fast, because properties are flying.
Yes.
They're still flying. There's still pent up demand, especially for rental properties, because it's viewed as a preservation to safety move. It's a move to safety where you hope to preserve your money, make a little bit of cash flow for a little while, and eventually when the market comes back, sell for a profit. But if you're only looking at income, you're going to think deals are bad deals right now. So there are many, many investors who still think real estate is one of the safest thing you can invest in, and institutional investors included, which tells you it's not too scary to buy now. It's just the financial strategy might be a little bit different. But if they're looking to buy properties and all these other experienced investors are, you're probably going to write offers and not get accepted on most deals that you offer on. So you've got to be prepared to have cash, either yours or other people's, and really to potentially partner with other people that do have enough cash that you can, get the deals under contract that you want. So, looking at your finances, looking at, where do I have cash to invest? Can I use my retirement accounts? Was I impacted by COVID? And if I was impacted, I had a reduction in hours or lost my job, or my spouse did, maybe I can take $100,000 withdrawal from my, 401k, because the government's letting you do it without penalty till the end of the year. And maybe I use that to buy some properties, or maybe I have equity in my home. And if I've got $100,000 in equity in my home, for example, you can go refinance at extremely low rates right now, or get a home equity loan, take that money, and that way you've got cash to pounce when you actually do find a deal. And oh, by the way, if you wait till after December 1st, the agencies are going to charge you a fee, like a 0.5 point extra, just to be able to refinance. So those are the kind of things that you can do now. Let's take advantage of the 401ks, of refis, of partners, to have the cash ready to pounce when I do find a deal.
Yeah. The other thing I just want to put on record is, the other thing that really helped us over the years is we need to be more comfortable sacrificing. One of the things that I think is coming out of this health event that we've now been in for almost 6 months is people are learning to live on less, right? They're not going out to eat as much. They're not buying the new shirts and the new shoes because they're not going to the office as much. But let's take that, if you want to call it sacrifice, living below your means, the millionaire next door, I don't care what you call it, but let's live on less. I challenge every listener to see if you can cut out 10%, right? And if you've already done 10%, well, try another 10%. Olivia and I, it may have been a decade, maybe 8 years now, we started living on half of our take-home income. And again, that took work, right? It didn't just happen overnight, but that's a lot of excess cash that you can build up quicker to buy the next property. So
100%. Yeah. And my husband and I did the same thing. For those listening that, don't know, I mean, when we started out, we lived on one income. We put the other income to pay down his school debt. And then we lived on one income and we used the other one to buy real estate. So, we rented a house for 4 years so that we could buy property instead. And we
Yeah.
bought rental property while we lived in a modest home that we rented to help us to get ahead, instead of going out and quickly buying that house that we really wanted.
Yeah.
We were very patient and didn't buy brand new cars. We're like, let's buy something used and let's just wait. And once we have enough rental property that mama can retire, then we'll get a nicer truck. Then we'll get a nicer house, but not until I've made enough cash flow that I really have financial freedom. Is it worth spending and delaying that financial freedom?
That is the big key right there, right? I saw so many people, because again, I've been doing this since '02, right? I was investing with a whole collection of investors from '02 to, let's call it '08, because I don't actually remember what year it was. We were all kind of doing the same thing, right? We were all enjoying it. Fresno was booming. 2 years in a row, 20% appreciation. Things were going great. The one difference, when Olivia and I did a cash out refi, we bought more real estate. When these other people did a cash out refi, they bought freaking toys or they took once in a lifetime vacations.
Yeah.
Guess what happened? The market rolls over. We still have all this cash flowing assets, no toys. They have a couple of toys and maybe some memories, but they lost all of their properties because their cash flow was negative. It just ate them alive.
Right.
So you got to sacrifice for the long term. So you can go buy the beach house. You can go upgrade your home. And people don't like to hear that. But it is such an anchor. We still live in the same 1,416 square foot condo that we bought in '99. We could have moved 50 times, but
right. Right. So true. And there's other things that you can do to just think about, how can I still enjoy some of those things that I think I got to pay top dollar to get without it being like, okay, I'm just going to slave away at this for 10 years and one day I'll retire and have this stuff. So instead of going out and buying that boat, you could go to the ocean and you could rent a boat for $200 for the day and still enjoy that outing on the boat with all of your friends, or instead of buying the big beach house, go rent it for a week and then wait until you've built up the cash flow before you just go put a huge chunk just to have this luxury toy. When you can still have all the memories and the joys of that type of toy by renting it and paying a lot less for it.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. And again, what I would tell you to do in that example is tie that expense or that thing to a reward, right? Oh, by the way, we just got our third property or whatever it is for you. Then go, because one thing I failed about, I wrote in the book, is we did not do anything like that. We just kept leaning forward and charging up the hill. But in the book, it was such a mistake. I would have loved to have said, hey, when we got the first property, we did this. When we got the 10th, we did that. When we did our first 40K cash out refi, we did this. And I'm not talking crazy stuff, but we I don't know, rented a Ferrari, or we went to Napa and bought a case of wine, or whatever it is for you, go do that.
Yeah. And do it sooner than later.
Yes.
Don't just do it all the time, but yes, I love that. Just tie it to, when I buy this next property and I make $40,000, cashed out, I'm going to spend 10% of that, $4,000 to go do something that just brings us joy, and put the other 90% back in. And it took us a while to realize that and do it. And once we did start doing it, we just had so much freedom and joy in the process, because we're like, hey kids, we're going to sacrifice right now. But when we're done, working on this property, rehabbing this deal, next summer, we're going to take a cross country trip, and we're not going to care what it's going to cost. We're just going to, we're going to do it. But
that was such a mistake on my part. It sounds like yours as well. Because I'm just thinking again about Teresa, my daughter. Right. When we tried to introduce her to real estate, I think we've shared before, I made the mistake of showing her the ugly side. Right. It's just, I should have said, I don't know, at some point in the journey, hey, we're going on a cruise wherever, or whatever she wanted to do, and then tie it to that activity.
Yes.
Damn it. I made a mistake.
It's not too late.
I want a do-over.
Golden nuggets coming on the phone.
Teresa, what are you going to do?
They do start to learn though. Mine wanted nothing to do with real estate forever, because they saw us do it the hard way. And in the beginning, a lot of times you have to do it the hard way. But now that they've finally seen that all these years that mom and dad did this and sacrificed, now we really have that freedom. Now we have, many things that we really don't even need, but we're just grateful to have. They understand now it was the result of this. and that now I can teach them to do it in an easier way than I had to do it. And so now the light bulbs are going, oh, wow, this actually worked. Great job, Mom. Now I want to do it. You know, I don't, so teach me how to do it the easy way. And my oldest son now that's a senior, he's like, you know, we're helping him get his first rental property going, but he's like, I just want to be an asset manager like you, Mom. I don't want to do the day-to-day anymore. Dad did that. I don't want to do that. Just
I don't like that part. I want this part over here.
Yeah. Which is like, okay, great. So he's seen too, the difference between active, fairly passive, and totally passive. Right. And he's like, okay, I want that kind of in between where I still get a bigger profit, but I have some control and I can put in, you know, a little bit of time. So they learn from watching us, even if it takes years to figure it out.
Yeah. You know, one thing I just hit me in the head is, and if you're comfortable answering it, great. If you don't want to, I'll answer it. But both of us sacrificed for a long time. We didn't celebrate the journey. But do you have one or two touchstones at the end of it that, and obviously beyond retirement, because that's a big deal, that you went, we're going to go do this because of everything we've done the last 15 years? Do you have any of those things that you maybe wouldn't have been able to do without real estate? I know I have a couple.
Oh, for sure. I mean, even when we first bought our first beach house, which was about 4 years ago, it was, you know, we've worked so hard for all these years and we've never taken our kids to the beach. And I grew up on the beach. We were there all summer, almost every day, spring breaks. And we're like, we need to stop and enjoy this more. Like we're never taking vacations other than to travel to see family. So we bought the first beach house and I never thought I'd be able to afford the kind of beach house that we bought. Just never thought it would happen.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what, real estate's afforded us to do this. And we started getting away for many long weekends and making family memories at that beach house. Awesome. And it was my favorite investment, though it's not the one that makes me anywhere near the most money. It's the investment that bought us the lifestyle. You know, when I was a teenager, Dirty Dancing came out. And, you know, Dirty Dancing, they're like at this resort and, you know, they're being catered to, these wealthy people. You know, I grew up in Section 8 housing and I thought I could never have a life like that, you know. And then all of a sudden we're at this resort. And the first time I was just sitting out on the beach and they were serving us food and drinks on the water. Yeah. It was like, it just hit me that, wow, like real estate has completely changed the financial trajectory of my life and my family's life, from girl in Section 8 projects to I now have the family here at the resort enjoying, you know, carefree vacation. And so it just, that was a big moment for me. Again, not about the money, but just about the things that I've been able to provide my family in terms of family memories, that I really didn't have a whole lot of that growing up.
Yeah. One of the biggest ones for me, because again, we started this when Teresa was 4 or 5, was to make sure we could pay for her college education.
Yes.
Right. By writing a check.
Yes.
And, because I didn't, right? I was married at 19, had to pay for my own college. I went to junior college first, then 4-year, then got my MBA. I paid for all of that. And that was debt that I carried for a while. Yeah. So it was always important for me that she was going to go to college. For my wife, it was important that she was going to do what she loved. So we had that battle. She won, I lost. And for the last one was that Teresa would graduate with no debt. And, you know, she went to a university where it was, you know, 6 figures plus, and we were able to cover that thanks to real estate, because it just wouldn't have happened without it. So that was probably one of the things that I'll carry with me forever, was that we were able to accomplish that.
For sure. Yeah. And we're in the same boat. You know, my husband, when we got married, had 6-figure school loans, and we struggled for 7 years to pay it off. It could have taken longer, but we wanted it out, you know, paid off so and me be home. And now the first 4 unit that we bought that we didn't live in, because we house hacked the first one, we bought with the plan that in 20 years, we will sell this and pay for my oldest's college education. We just sold the property this year. Nice. He goes to school next year, and I'll be able to write a check for, you know, a nice 6-figure education if that's what he decides he wants to do. And there's nothing more rewarding than to say, wow, the plan worked. Yeah. And now I don't have to strap him with living on rice and beans and rice like we did for years. Strapped with school debt.
I remember.
So yeah, real estate it really changes lives. And back to the original listener's question, you know, is this the time to get started? The longer you wait, the longer it takes to reach that financial freedom number. And a lot of us did it through really hard times, similar to what we're seeing today.
Yeah.
And, the proof is in the pudding that, if you start and you just stick with it and buy one rental at a time, you'll get there. It'll just take some time, but you can't do that if you sit on the sidelines and sit in fear of all the what ifs.
Yeah. The other thing I want to tell the listeners today, again, because you and I have the experience of the last crisis, which new people are trying to relate this crisis to the last crisis. So let's just take that off the table today. We are not in a residential crash scenario for most cities. I do think New York, San Francisco could see crash-like numbers, but those are for different reasons.
Yes.
Most of the country, real estate will be up, in my opinion, 7 to 12% in a year, residential. Because we're tilting supply demand. We don't have the supply where the new demand is, and economics 101, supply demand means prices go up. So you can learn your market. And the other thing, this is a gem for the audience. So I look at my market every day. Kind of like, let's say March, April, I was going, okay, everybody's going to disappear. I'm going to go buy some, what I call turnkey units, think clean, think pass FHA, because nobody's around, right? I can write a check, I win. Well, first off, the supply never showed up. So that didn't go my way. Second, as this went on, more and more people are like, I need to move out of these expensive areas, and I'm going to go. Fresno turned into be a destination of all places. So now we have Silicon Valley money going to Fresno and just buying everything they can. It's crazy for cash many times. And I'm like, well, shoot, now I can't buy clean stuff. So what did I do in the last 3 or 4 weeks? I'm starting to look for uglier properties. Right? Because what do people want today? They want clean move-in properties. They want out of their little shoebox in San Francisco, and they want a house with a backyard today.
Yes.
Right? They don't have time to remodel. They're done. They're getting out of their lease. They're gone. Right? So you just got to roll with the punches. And if you don't look at your market every day, you won't see that evolution. That's why I tell people, keep looking, because there's deals everywhere. You just may not be looking in the right corner of the market.
Right. And if not in your area, then go where people are moving and where jobs are moving. So we talked about, last week and probably the week before that, go south, southwest and southeast. I mean, people are just moving there in droves. And so it's very regionalized, and you've got to make sure that you understand what's happening in the market that you think you want to invest in, and invest in markets that are primed for stability, even through COVID, higher, demand, lower supply, fairly conservative, that are going to keep growing.
Yeah.
Or today than you think you should, they're probably still going to go up in value because the demand is there.
Yeah. The other thing I just read this morning is this is a worldwide phenomenon. I just read about London, or the UK market is seeing the same thing that San Francisco and New York are seeing. People have left the city of London, the tech hub, and they're working from home, and they're going out to their second homes if they have that financial stability. So what we have just talked about in a very US focus is a worldwide phenomenon. If you're in a vertical city, at least in most countries, that is not the place to be today, certainly in a rental, right? So you can take this in Australia, South America, all over. So this real estate is global. Sometimes we forget that. So lots of exciting stuff. So in the end, you get somebody calls you on the phone, says, I don't know, what do we want to set this up as? I'm 30 years old. I rent. I don't know. What would you tell someone that doesn't own anything today, but is ready to go? What would be your 1 or 2 bits of advice for them as we wrap this up?
If they rent, house tag your first multi-unit. Buy a duplex, a triplex, a 4-unit. You can get in some areas with USDA rural financing for 0% down.
Yeah.
Even if you don't go into rural areas, you can get in with FHA for 3.5% down, essentially, for a 1 to 4 unit property.
Yep.
Live in one of the units, rent out the others to learn how to be a landlord, to have some extra cash flow that helps you to pay your living expenses. Learn on that small one. You're going to be there every day to touch it, feel it, see it, what you need to. Don't let the naysayer say, oh, you never want to be a landlord. They'll be at your door. Yes, they will, but it is worth it. It is worth it. And so I would say your first property, if you're not already a homeowner, house hack a multi-unit, not a single family house that you want to rent later. House hack a small multi-unit that you could be content living in for at least a year. Because you got to tell your lender, I promise I'll live here for at least a year. And a year later, if you decide, hey, I'm done with this one, renovate that unit, go house hack another one.
There you go. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree with that. The other thing I would tell you to do is if you are in a big city like San Francisco or New York, pull out a California or New York map and figure out where you can get to pretty easy within 2 hours. Figure out where that is, and then go house hack in that area. Cause I think that is going to see outsized appreciation, probably even rental growth. That's what I think 2021 is going to be. Because right now there's not a lot of rental growth, meaning rental rates. Everybody's kind of like, I just want to collect my rent. I'm not raising rents. I just want to collect. But again, this supply demand picture where housing is going to go up, I think rental rates will be appreciating in 2021, 2020, certainly 2022.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're already seeing that today in certain regions, and that's why the market is so important. You know, I've got 2 properties in Atlanta and another one that we're looking at now. Atlanta's one of only 3 cities in the United States that rents are actually higher post-COVID than they were before. Well, why is that? Because there's more demand than there is supply, and people can't just apartment hop. If they want a place, they're going to pay higher rent to get there, and they're in the suburbs. They're not downtown. And so people are moving into the suburbs and the rents are going up. And so find areas like that, like Fresno, where people are moving out of the cities, moving a little more into the suburbs, and buy and house hack in those areas, because that's where you're going to have the most likelihood of rents going up. Where if you tried to do that in one of those big cities, most likely your rents are going to go down, I think.
Yeah. Well, no, there's not, you think they are already going down, double digits going down, and free months rent and lower deposits and
probably even into 2021, I think.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's going to be bad. Well, Anna, this has been so much fun. Thank you very much for giving us some time. I'm so happy you enjoy doing these things. I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Michael. Likewise.